Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is Michael, KE4EST. And today's video, I want to do a quick little video on these little hotspots that you can get, these little MMDVM little cheap hotspots. Now I'm going to do this because I hope it helps somebody out. Now if there's, if you're seasoned in electronics and things like that, or seasoned ham radio operator, and one of the ones that tears a lot of stuff apart and built your own stuff and everything like I have, you've probably already took care of the problem. But if you're a new ham or new in electronics or whatever, and you get one of these little hotspots and you have overheating problems, and you're like, man, that thing overheats and I'm always resetting it all the time, I thought maybe I can help you out here a little bit. So now I've already done some of the disassembly to save a little time, but this is usually, now this one here is a duplex hotspot, dual hotspot, whatever, duplex MMDVM, and they're just snapped together. So what you'll have to do is carefully first take your, as you can see, I've already got my antennas took off, but or if you got just the regular single hotspot, it'll just have one antenna, but take that off. And then these are just kind of pressed, like a snapped on there. So what you want to do is carefully, you can take your thumbnail and bend it, or maybe a light pressure with a flathead screwdriver, back and forth on both sides, get it going, and you can get it off. So that's how that'll come off. There'll be no screws or anything, or at least most of them. I've not seen one yet. That'll just come right off like that. Set that to the side, and be careful. Don't be walking around dragging your feet on carpet and all this stuff, and ground yourself out good. That's what you want to be, and be very careful with this display here. These can be a sore spot. This one's soldered in, but they're all only soldered in, but you can see there, see that little gap in that? If I press on that, it's got some flex to it, and you press too hard, you can break these pins off, or cause a cold solder joint. So, and this is glass. These are actual OLED displays, OLEDs, and it's glass. That's real glass. It's not plastic. So be careful with this so you don't, break it. And there'll be two screws here. I should have just probably left it together. But if you're new to it and whatever, I want to cover everything. These two screws will be right in there, one on each side, and you just take a little screwdriver, pull them out, set those to the side, and very gently and carefully, you can see how it's down into this Raspberry Pi Zero, because that's all's in these things. You probably figured that out already, but if you didn't and you mess with this stuff, you might go, oh really? It's Raspberry Pi Zero. I've got a bunch of these things, but different. I've got all three different models they made of the Pi Zero. I think one of them they don't make anymore, but this one is the, what is it, the S model? That don't sound right, but maybe it is. But anyway, it's got the built-in Wi-Fi. Obviously, it's how you get it to work, because there's no Ethernet card on here or nothing, or Ethernet jack. But be very careful with this piece. You take it off, okay, and then set it over to the side carefully. And what I did was, if you live in a big city or something, you might go to the electronics store and find some hanging up somewhere. You can buy 2 or 3, or you can get on eBay or Amazon or something and buy a whole. I've got 2 or 3 packs of these things I use all the time for things. And this one, I don't know, or probably Amazon. But you can see it's got all kinds of heat sinks in it. And even this one, I don't know why, but it came with, nope, not that one. I was going to show you, kind of digressing here a little bit, but it's even got a little heat sink with a Raspberry Pi on it, and that'd be for like a RAM or something, on like the bigger Raspberry Pis. Actually, I got one I've been messing with here, laying here. Or like one of the, see like the other little chips or something you want to put on. You know, one of these. Or, let's see. Well, this one's made a little different. This is a Raspberry Pi 4. But, I'll turn that radio down. But anyway, so, don't use that. You want to use as much as you can, okay? And I have dug through and I found this one here. It's kind of beefy. It's got the self, you peel it off and stick it on, and that's what you want to get. I know there's better ways to do this, and if you really want to get into it, and you want to stay with this, you could pull it. You'd want to pull it out of this, use a beefier heat sink and a fan on it, and all that. But if you really when you get really deep into it and stuff, and you want to upgrade, you get a better hotspot probably anyway someday. If this is your first hotspot. But these work pretty good for what they are. I've got, I use them. I set mine up so, because it seems like they lock up from heat or lock up from whatever, and putting this on it makes a difference. It brings the heat down. Somewhat. It pulls it off the chip anyway. It's still going to keep it in there, because all you're having is convection flow, the heat. There's no fan or anything in here to get the heat out. But it's better than nothing. And so what you want to do is make sure this is clean or whatever. You may have to use an alcohol pad and let it dry good if it's not clean. And you want to go in here and peel this off. And I'll show you something else in just a minute. I've already checked the size on this, but peel that little backing off there. I don't know if you'll see this good on the camera. Turn it this way. Make sure you're good and squared up on your chip there. Give it a little press so it gets on there good. That thermal tape. And if you really want to do it, take 2 more little screws out here. Pull the Pi board out and set it on something so see right now I've got to be careful because I've got that flex in there. And that would ensure it's really on there good, but that's on there pretty good. Now, here's what you want to do. You may have different kind of heat sink or find something or whatever. You're going to have to watch real careful and make sure that when you put that heat sink on there, when you put this back on, carefully put it back on there. Don't push on the OLED display. That there's clearance under there. See, mine's got clearance. It ain't touching. And it's pretty good ways from touching. But if yours is closer than that or may touch, if it touches really bad, like it's going to cause the board to bow when you're trying to push this on there, then you need to find another heat sink. But if it's really, really close, take this board out and put some Captain tape on the back of it if you have any. A lot of people may, if you're not electronics, you may not have Captain tape. It's a real super thin tape that's, non-conductive. But if you don't have that, go to the hardware store and get you some regular out and toolbox if you got regular old black electrical tape, and stick on the bottom of this board here before you put it down, so you don't want it touching, shorting anything out, because this is metal. But that's it. You do that, and then you got to put your screws back in and fire it up. But you'll notice when you do this that the temperature is going to go down, and it won't be running as hot as it was. And it seems to, make it last longer. I've got mine set. You can go into your settings. Of course, that's beyond the scope of this video. In your expert settings, and you can set put it all back together, and you're ready to go carefully. But you can go in your settings and have this thing set up to reboot every 12 hours or once a day or every 2 hours or whatever you want. And that's what I do with mine, because it seems like, whatever. Another thing, while we're here, you're watching this video, if you're still watching this far, it comes with these little cheap SD cards. They'll find the cheapest one they can, get putting these things. So they, buy them in bulk. Get you a better SD card. I had one. Yeah, here's one. Something like here's a SanDisk Ultra. You don't need 16 gigabyte if you can even see that. Yeah, so 16 gigabyte. You don't need one that big, but anymore, I've Seen people say these power stars get you, you don't need very much, just a little small. But anymore, if you get to looking, at the store, if you go to Amazon or something like that, you can get two pack of these 16 gigabyte or 32 gigabyte for the same price that you can get, one of the older 4 gigs or 8 gigs or whatever. So sometimes it's kind of silly, but I use a lot of these 16 and 32 gigs depending on what I'm doing. And some of these things I don't really need it. But that's it. And it's carefully goes back together like that. And if it, seems like it's too loose, you can take it back off and squeeze it just a little bit and put a little more pressure on it. And put your antennas back on. And you are good to go. And you should have less heat problems. So I hope this helps somebody out, and maybe you didn't even think about trying that, or if you're new to it or whatever, you're afraid to take this apart. Maybe I don't know what's in there. I'm just going to leave it. Take your time, take it apart, get you something like that, put it on there. You can order these things. You don't have to order a whole big pack of them. But I do a lot of electronic stuff, so I've got a bunch of these. And it'll make these run just a little bit better. All right, until the next video, this is Michael, KE4EST 73.